Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 871. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, pushing cooked spaghetti uphill is exhausting. Why this matters, right? It's hard to make change happen if leaders provide lip service to the cause. It's impossible if they actively oppose change. So what are you going to do? We have a great panel today with Jeremy Berrio, Jeremy Willets, John M. Quigley, Brad Bitterf, and myself. The Software Process and Measurement Cast is brought to you by Mastering Work Intake. Starting everything means finishing nothing. Poor work entry means delivering less. Why this matters? Work intake controls what a team works on and when they work on it. Overloaded teams deliver less value. Poor prioritization leads to delivering the wrong work. Chaotic work intake costs organizations money, time, and trust. Mastering Work Intake by Jeremy Willets and Tom Cagley provides the reader with ideas, principles, and actionable advice, along with worksheets and examples to deliver more value. Link in the show notes, buy a copy. Or if you don't want to take the link in the show notes, just go to Amazon.com and look up Mastering Work Intake. Are you ready to talk about what happens when management isn't buying in? It's time for the conversation. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear. No, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. You know, what we've never done is I've never gone around the room and had you introduce yourself. So why don't we start with Mr. Willets? Why don't you tell them who you are and why you're here?
Sure. Jeremy Willets. I mean, who I am. I've been multiple different things in my career, whether it's been an agile coach, a manager. Got my start as a technical writer on a Scrum team at a software company, and just so happened to be the first Scrum team in that company's history. Immediately fell in love with the Scrum Master role, and I haven't looked back since. Why I'm here? It's because I worked with Tom at that very software company, and we kept in touch. We wrote a book together, and here we are.
Am I the only John? Oh, yes, it's me.
And John, please do not list all of the books that you've written.
Yeah, I won't go there. I won't go down that road. I'll just start off with saying that I started off as a embedded product development engineer for industrial applications and moved into automotive space over time. I don't know how we got hooked together, Tom. That's really interesting. I have to go back and figure that out.
Me too. But
I like product development. I've done all I can do, including 2 masters, to understand from input to output of what it takes to deliver a product to the market. And a little bit similar to Jeremy, I brought Agile, specifically Scrum, to an automotive company that had not been using that technique or that approach before. That was kind of cool.
And you,
I do like it that approach or that mindset, and I believe in selecting the right tool for the right job, and that's a good tool for a good number of jobs for sure.
Brad, your turn.
I'm Brad Bitterf. I have a background in industrial automation and a little bit of rocket science, and I have done systems engineering, quality, software engineering, some agile development programs that I've been supporting and part of. Why am I here? I got asked to participate. No, I think Tom and I met. Well, we talked about it once. I think we met once a long time ago at a spin meeting, but we didn't really know each other. Then we met at conferences and things like that afterward, and have sustained a little dialogue from time to time.
It is funny because I do think we met at a spin meeting in downtown Cleveland when both of us were a tad bit younger, and that is funny.
Before I left Ohio.
Yeah. And I'm glad you came back. By the way, Brad stopped by and we had dinner. And it's been 8 days already or more. It feels like, it was just the other day. Mr. Barrio.
Jeremy Barrio. I started off as a general system software tester, kind of progressed up through there, got to the C-suite for a little bit, and then decided to go out on my own. And now I help teams get better at what they do. I hunt some monsters within the company. And how I got here, it was after a talk at Toronto Test Track that I did, that this tall, skinny guy came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be on his podcast. And I think it was 12 years ago. I think it was 2013. So, and ever since, I've been a regular, and Tom and I have spoken at conferences, hung out at conferences. So it's been a fun ride.
So who was the tall, skinny guy? I know I came up to you and did that, but I'm a relatively normal size fat guy. So,
well, okay, compared to me, you're skinny.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big guy.
You are a jiu-jitsu trainer, also.
Yes.
He's Canadian, also. Which other things.
Yes, I'm Canadian, so I'll start charging tariffs later.
Excellent.
No, it's not about that, man. I have an affinity for Canadians personally. They've been some of those friendly people I've ever met. Been Canadians, British Columbian Canadians, mind you, but Canadians nonetheless.
Yeah,
I do like the jiu-jitsu analogies that you've been using in LinkedIn to talk about process change recently. I think that is a very interesting linkage between the two. Gentlemen, I know that we're missing some of our friends, but I'd like to tackle something. I recently did a class, and it was a really cool class, and I had a lot of fun. But one of the questions that got written down on the wall before we started is, what do you do if management doesn't believe in this stuff and really doesn't support adopting? And it was Agile that we're working on. But the reality is, what do you do if management doesn't support something that in theory you should all be adopting? Whether it's Agile or something else, it doesn't really matter. What advice would you give people?
I mean, I would say the first thing to do is seek to understand why. Understand if you can talk to those folks, whether they're C-level executives, upper managers, to at least get a sense of why they don't necessarily support or advocate. That would be step one. Maybe that ends up becoming a conversation where you can yield some actions to do something about it. But then the other thing to keep in mind too, the other sort of piece of advice would be tread carefully, because if you don't have leadership support, you're only going to go potentially so far.
Unless, of course, you're talking about down, from which a fish should go a long way down.
Yeah, or out.
Sorry. Or out. Out. If I could use my Canadian.
Yes. That's why I said tread carefully, gentlemen.
You'll go so far forward, but a long way backwards.
So what else? What other advice? That's good advice.
Sorry, that's a tough one. I had a client. Basically, this is what was said during a couple of the calls. Like, I want you to change everyone, but not what my team does, or not what I do. And
the problem is those people.
Yeah. And it's tough. Part of it was, like, in my experience, is they don't want to lose power. They think they have power by holding everyone and by doing, like, okay, let the teams do what they do, but I still kind of control. And yeah, I sort of don't believe in all this, but as long as I control what the team is doing, I'm fine. And really, like, the leadership, and one of the things I always tell leaders and VPs, executives, whoever, is that they're thinking like a hero instead of thinking like a legend. When you think like a hero, you come in, you try to save the day, make everything all right, and people will remember you as a hero until the next hero comes along. Where you really want to be is you want to be the legend where the team works as themselves, you give the trust, you give the coaching, and you make them more resilient in what they do and how, like, achieve their goals and achieve the organization goals. Because then when you become that legend, you become the manager executive that people will remember for like decades, not like years. So when you show them that, and then when I tell them that, it's like having that type of power is way more effective, and it's way more fulfilling than just saying, "Oh, I have a team of 100 people." If I can say I have 100 people that I know they can call me at any time, and I'll answer their call, or I can talk to them and they'll pick up the phone. It's a completely different thing, even like decades after.
I've seen a couple different situations where there was not management support for adoption of Agile or other innovations or presumed improvements. And in some cases, an individual became a champion of that and tried on a few projects, right? I've seen in a large organization where there was one of the technical communities of practice was dedicated to Agile. And so there tended to be people who were doing it perhaps, quietly or within their own project that started to link up across the organization. And that provided some techniques and, practices and resources for them. But it is hard when there's not a formal management support. The other thing I've seen is customers do not understand Agile and they're not comfortable with it. So there have even been hybrids, and I'm sure you've all seen those, where program does some stuff Agile, but on the outside, what they report to customers is more traditional.
Yeah, it's sort of like a
I'm not sure
Klondike
that's a
bar.
bad thing. That might be okay, depending on how you divide it up, I guess. I don't know. Is it worse that you don't have management support, or that you have management and executive support, but their idea of what that is more like what Jeremy says, that we want to be Agile, except that I'm going to be dictating how our Agile teams work. Now, we're empowered and we're self-actualizing as self-directed work teams, more or less, except for I'm the one setting the actual pace and setting the actual content. I don't know which one of those is worse.
I don't think any of either one of those are good. So
They're good.
Are they? Are either one of them good?
I'm asking you if they're good. Yeah, I thought they were bad.
Yeah.
I might be on the wrong page.
Well, that's why I said I don't think either one are good.
Okay, I missed that. You don't think either one. I thought you were like, either one of those is good. And I'm like, wait, what?
I'm just trying to get a conversation.
I might have to punch out, man, because I think I'm stupid.
Oh,
Well,
Jeremy was talking about tapping out the other day. So
yes. Might be right there with you, Jeremy.
So
I don't either done errantly or not back. I think the same result. You get the same result.
So
maybe.
What advice do you give? I mean, let's say all of us, let's say we are outside consultants that are brought in, and the first thing you discover is you either facing, well, in either case, management hasn't bought in. Neither one of those are buy-in, right? They're not really interested in it.
I mean, I guess I would wonder, do they care at all about how products are developed? I think that's a fair question to ask. I've worked at places before where the higher up the org chart you go, the high level leaders don't really care, just as long as they get product X delivered with a high level of quality by date Y. And however that happens, who cares?
Or maybe they used to know, or they look at their successes and had said that this is how I got to this point, so I should continue doing more of this, or something along those lines. I don't know. Might be right.
Or Agile is a buzzword to them, and they say, go do Agile, but they don't understand it. They ask for all the usual formal reports that don't make sense in that environment.
Make things fast. Do now.
Yeah. That hyper focus on speed gets in the way of everything.
Yeah.
Speed with quality.
Well, I'll tell you, I'd be really cool with speed with quality. I mean, if I could get that, I would. I've got some money in this drawer. I'd pay for that. But the question is, as I said, the premise is we've all been hired to do this, and I think the first question I'd want to ask is, why did you hire me? What is it that I'm here for?
Yeah.
And do you what do you think the answer might be, right? So you're hired, and many of us, right, are actively practicing consultants, and that's a decent chunk of change that you're generally brought in to do that kind of work. And if they're not engaged, why are they spending their money?
Well,
Is it
I think-
is it ethical to actually take their money in that case?
Well, I think the one, like, you're talking about asking the question why, and we know as coaches we shouldn't really be asking anything with why, because it invokes some sort of emotion, and they get their biases out. Where, like, for me, if I had, like, these executives that I talked about before, to me, it was, I just got them into a room and we just did a workshop. And I just started asking kind of like powerful questions to lead them in. Like, I already knew after a couple initial calls with them and talks with them and meetings, I knew they were, okay, they're command and control. And I even told them that, like, they're, after an assessment, I said, the management style here is very bureaucratic, because it's very, these are the rules. This is what has to happen. You guys have to open this up. And as a recommendation, you guys have to open it up. And they were kind of a little bit, okay, sure, whatever, but we don't really care. But then I got him in a room and I didn't even go back. I didn't even go into it from a bureaucratic perspective. I didn't even talk about it. I just started asking more the powerful questions and get them to lead in so that they can see, oh crap, we are bureaucratic. Like, we're stopping ourselves from becoming faster, getting better quality, because we got all these different rules that are in place that are slowing things down. And I started directing them towards, like, you can make these self-managed teams, self-organizing teams, let them take care of all that, and you'll get to where you want to go. And you guys can now focus on bigger things. You guys can focus on growth. You can focus on this, and you don't have to be very kind of over the shoulder paying attention to what John Doe is doing. When John Doe knows what he's doing, you've hired them to do that, let them do it. So I think when you get them to lead it, and this is, like when I talked about heroes and legends for leaders, like, I am, like, one of the first managers I've had 30 some odd years ago. To me, he's a legend because he got me thinking on how I could fix my own problems. He started asking those powerful, like, those type of questions to lead me. He knew the answer. Instead of just telling me the answer, he made me see it and see it myself. And now I go in that type of flow. And because I go in that flow, it's more empowering to me. And that change, whatever change I make, stays with me as I go through and I learn.
There is a benefit in talking the language of leadership, right? Which is often dollars, sometimes risk. And so some of the times I've gone in, we find somebody who can characterize problems that they're having, and if you can talk about how your approach is going to address some of them, that can be helpful. There are other times when programs have gone out and found public domain programs, or they may have even paid for licenses for things just for a program. And within the organization, several groups may have paid for several different programs. And so just in terms of scale and economics, to minimize that kind of duplication, that might be an approach if that's something that you find, which I have sometimes found. It's a little tricky with something that leadership is not familiar with to come up with a benefit in a language they can understand.
I did some work at an OEM, vehicle OEM. And,
OEM?
Original equipment manufacturer. Yeah. And they did the development work, and the result of the development went into the bid. And this project came along this was probably in the early 2000s, that had we didn't have the same resources that other parts of the company working on a similar project, right? We were constrained. We didn't have this division of labor, this hierarchy, and these numerous headcount. And so I'm sitting there trying to figure out how are we going to get this project done? And this is when I first went into something that was kind of agile-like. It was this was before I knew anything about Scrum. And I said, okay, this is how we're going to work. We're going to just in time the specs. We're going to just in time the software deliveries, these quick turns and increments. We're going to run those to the test department and have these very fast turnarounds. And what I saw was we were able to, in spite of a few numbers compared to the other parts of the company doing a similar project for their vehicles and their domains, we were managing to keep pace with them and maybe even a little faster with fewer people. And the output was as good, if not better than, in terms of defects found and things like this. And so part of me thinks if you can just get out there and start doing the work and demonstrate, get rid of the shackles of the organization around it and just do the work and start producing results, then people go, hey, what's happening here that we're getting these kind of results, including the executives. And they may decide that, okay, what the thing that I think I understand in the terms of buzzwords, it might be not exactly right, but at least they understand, they're able to talk more about the thing and they have a tangible outcome, assuming you're pulling it off, that's favorable and something they're going to want to understand a little more about. So they get a little more inquisitive. What's going on here? How are you doing this? I don't know if that works across the board, but it seemed to work in this case. And it was because of necessity. It wasn't like somebody in the executive branch said, with God, my son, and yea, verily introduced something called Agile. I'm like, no, whatever. This is what I have for talent, including myself, and this is what we have for a schedule. We can't really do this thing in this large sweeping model in this case. And that way it was kind of, I guess, from bottom up instead of top down.
Yeah. So you had a burning.
That usually doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But it does sometimes. You had
apparently it does sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you had enough of a burning platform that allowed that to move forward.
And it was a high profile thing too. Mm-hmm. That didn't hurt anything because the executives were invested in the outcome of this thing, and it was favorable. I think to their surprise in many cases.
Good.
It was stressful on the team, but you know what? That stress, probably different kind of stress than working in the conventional way would have been, but it was not unstressful. And I think that stress was very productive, and it created a sense of cohesive. In 30 years, I've been on maybe 4 or 5 teams that I call real teams, and that's one of them. And I have a feeling some of that was stress related. Sharing of that burden, so to say.
Understood. Mr. Willets, on this question, you want to take us home on this?
Sure. I think it's important to understand whether leaders who aren't bought in are going to be active detractors. I think that's a really important thing to understand, because if they're just going to kind of be, I don't really care what you do, that might actually be okay for you. But if they're going to actively go out of their way to somehow undermine the work that you're doing, whether it's via staffing mechanisms, budget mechanisms, some other sort of organizational stuff that Brad talked about, there are levers that leaders, particularly executives, can pull that we as coaches, change agent people just don't have access to, and those can happen in front of our faces. They can also happen behind our backs. The understanding at what level a particular leader, regardless of how high up the chart they are, whether they're an individual, like a lower level manager that manages an agile team, or again, the top of the executive food chain, understanding at what level of a detractor they're going to be, I think is pretty important.
A lot of this sounds like it boils down to you have to have a dialogue with those. You, in your first statement on this topic, Jeremy W., you said, you talked about if you can communicate with them, in essence, that sometimes that's not possible. Is it always? Obviously, it isn't always possible to communicate with executives. Do you have much of a leg to stand on if you can't get to them?
I think it's going to, in that case, if you can't get to the executives, and I think I work in an environment like that now where I don't get to the executive level to understand their ability to support agility. But, I go to the next level. What's the highest level in the org chart I can get to, and then either work my way down from that or work my way up to that to understand where that resistance point may be, but also understand, again, how much of a detractor that particular person can be.
Gentlemen, thoughts on that? Jeremy, you could just throw them, choke them out.
Yeah, if you can get to there are sometimes people within the organization, within a project, who lead the project, right? And they may not be the leaders.
That's also true.
Might be the chief engineer. It might be a senior technical person who she's been there for a long time. And so sometimes the the way is not consistent. You work through the path of least resistance.
Well, that's the other thing, like find the influential personalities around you, Brad. That's another sort of like classic change strategy, isn't it? Find the decision makers might not always be the people that have manager in their job title. They might be people who are, technical experts. They might be people who, have just been at the company for a very long time wearing different hats.
That takes some internal knowledge of the program, right? And the dynamics and who those people are. But
it does.
If you're with an organization a while, as I have been sometimes, you learn that stuff pretty well. And I've even seen cases where we introduce new things to one team, small program, kind of not very consequential, but the next generation of projects, those people distribute, and now they're in more influential positions on the new program. So it takes a while sometimes.
Yeah.
So the seed theory. Going to plant some seeds.
It's a little different than who's
grow.
neck to grab.
Yeah.
I said, Jeremy B. or John, any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just thinking it was whose neck to grab a little differently. I remember one of these where I had a project that was, it was a conventional approach, so conventional project where it was going through a gate review. And there was a lot of pressure from one of the key internal suppliers to just blow through the gate review. I was a department manager. In this case, I knew we should not go through this gate review, or we should not go through this gate review with everybody warm and fuzzy. You pass it, that's fine, but you need to know what you're working with, because it was not great. And there was a lot of pressure from this external source to kind of push on through. And I arranged to have to Bradley's point here, I arranged to have a meeting with the quality guy, the vice president of quality, to talk about something else. But he asked me about this thing over here that was getting ready to go through this gate review. And I just told him the truth, because that's really how I work in this context. And I just said the things that I saw. And he said, that's fine. And so the next thing I know, he's telling this particular project and the people associated with it, when you go through the gate, we're going to do a gate audit after the fact. Do you think we went to that gate audit? Went to that gate review? We passed that gate review? We didn't even go to it. It was delayed, which is the thing that was the smart move to have happen. Actually, I don't know how that connects to Agile. Only this is it's not what you know. It's not even the proof that you have. It's not even the evidence that you have that says what you know might actually be true. It's some third thing. If I knew, I wouldn't be in the state that I'm in. But it might have something to do with who you know.
Sometimes. Well, sometimes that is the leverage that you have to get into, to have somebody actually talk to you. Maybe you are that legend and somebody actually picks up the call. I gotta say though, that I wrote that down, be a legend, not a hero. But as I'm thinking through that, I think 95% of the legends that I can come up with, really legends, all were martyred. So I'm a little worried about that analogy, but I still like it. I'm still working on it. I know there probably are legends that haven't been killed in action and things like that, but who knows?
Well, I've been martyred. It does happen. I remember, so to John's point where he came out and told the truth, there was a couple programs I was working on with a company, and I came up, the executives, the vendor, they all came in and said, this is how we're going to do it. And I remember I was in the meeting with them. They're saying, oh, Jeremy, this is how we're going to test this. This is how we're going to do this. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because they wanted to create a mirror system and just take production files, run it through the old system, and then run the same files for the new system and just do a basic compare at the end. And the way the system, I know everyone's starting to twitch now, right? I still twitch now when I hear about it. And in this meeting, I came out and I said, it's like, well, the old system has really one kind of breakpoint, because it was an actuary system. It takes the file, it does its thing, and it spits it out. This new system you're building, which is supposed to be faster, is you have 4 different staging levels before you even get to the end. So you're not even testing these 4 staging levels, because you have 4, at the very minimum, you have 4 different breakpoints of what you can get out of it. And then you're going to test it at the end. So you don't know if your systems in between are actually working the way they should, but you still getting garbage, because that was the main complaint I heard when I actually talked to people from the business. That's a shocker from everyone. And they told me, it's like the information they get out, they still have to do 5 days worth of manual work just to clean up the data to make it work and usable. And so the process that they were going through is like, well, we'll just create this new system. So now they get the data a week sooner. So now they get everything's done a week sooner. And I'm like, guys, like, this doesn't make any, this is
But even when they have to do the 5 days worth of stuff to clean it up, they're still 5 days ahead. So it's great, right?
Oh yeah, that was their thinking. And
Oh God.
and I brought it up to them. Well, also, this was a $52 million program, and their overall requirements were 53 lines in an Excel spreadsheet. Not high level, detailed. So I'll just leave it at that. So when I went to them and I said, like, this is the business is complaining that they're taking so long to clean up the data. Why don't we set the new system up so the data is clean at the end? And then now, not only do you get the data faster, but also you save 5 extra days. So now you're actually saving 2 weeks instead of 1 week. And I guess because there were some senior executives that this was their brainchild and their bright idea. But 3-4 weeks later, I was told I wasn't working on that program. They moved me off to another one.
I do remember you telling me that back when it actually happened. We had that conversation. You called me up and we actually talked about that. That's
yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, we've talked before we got on the air today about whether or not it is always a good idea to tell people that their baby is ugly. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. And you know what? You did the right thing. You did the right thing. And from what you told me later on about what really happened, yeah.
Well, because it was just, for me, my values. It's like, hey, I want this thing to work right. Like, yeah, I was new to the company. I was just coming in. I want to make things are done right. I'm sorry. That's just the way I am.
Your name's attached to it. That's the way I look at it. My name's next to this thing. And you know what? It shocked me in the case of this OEM thing, because my career was short-lived there. Kind of long, but soon after this. So I'm with you. And I'm thinking, my name is John Quigley. That's really nobody. Your name is whatever that name is, but it's something that everybody around this call and anybody in the world would recognize. And I'm thinking one of us is concerned about our name being attached to something that's an abomination.
Yeah.
And I would have thought it would have been you more than me, but it's me. And I'm very shocked at this. You know, this is not what I would have thought. I want my name up against good things, not terrible things. And if your name is already kind of famous and allegedly synonymous with quality and safety, I would have thought you would have wanted your name also stellar, more stellar than my name. And I would appreciate that. So it's very shocking to me.
Gentlemen, as always, this is an interesting, passionate discussion, all sorts of cool things.
And by that, he means belligerent.
I don't think anybody was belligerent today. We'll work on the belligerent. We'll get belligerent in before we're done with these summer panels. I think what I've heard, right? What I've heard is you're going to have the conversation. You have to have the conversation with somebody that can either influence or is the person that has a problem with the support, and find out why. And that's really what a lot of this boils down to. And at some point, you may have to tell people that their baby's ugly, and then you have to take the consequences of those actions.
Yeah.
Really do.
I would add one more. Sometimes you can sneak it in. And
Okay.
just show them the benefit. Show them the benefit.
Okay,
like,
you're right.
Whoa!
We did hear an example of that, and you know what?
This is kind of cool. Let's do more of whatever this is that's getting us this win over here.
I think both you and Brad had
I don't know how probable
examples
that
of
is.
that. So
This
again,
is much less, much more informal. But at an organization I was at, we had kind of an unwritten rule that somebody had to always be present at a meeting who did not report to the boss of that group, so they could tell truth.
ooh, that's not it. That's a great technique. It's almost like having someone appointing someone to play the devil's advocate at all times, right?
It's the court jester kind of thing. Yeah.
Or independent verification and kind of thing.
Right.
So there are ways to have the conversation. Gentlemen, again, thank you very much. This has been absolutely fabulous. I always leave this and go, I can't wait to edit this and see what it says. I just got one done yesterday, and it's like, ooh, I have some notes. Stuff to take away.
Enjoy your anniversary first.
Happy anniversary.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. I will enjoy it, and I look forward until we talk again. Joy is an integral part of working in organizations. The next SPaMCAST will dive into the whole idea of finding joy in little things. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?